Hi, this is Erin from Bossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited. This is part of a horror collaboration organised by three amazing women. Check out all of the information on the screen. I just want to jump straight in though. So, I'd say relax, but you won't. Get ready on the edge of your chair for this. Now, dear watchers, do I have a story to tell you? It's the legend of the sea witches of Van Diemen's Land. So legend has it that for thousands of years there have been a lineage of sea witches who are both cruel and terrifying. They treat the oceans as their personal supply of resources to cast their darkest spells and weave their most heinous magic. They care not if lives are lost in the pursuit of their ingredients. In fact, the more pain and torment they create while doing so, the more powerful they believe their ingredients to be. These witches have been able to craft a potion which gives them a very long lifespan, hundreds of years, compared to the regular 80 or so of mere mortals. One of the key ingredients in this most vile of potions is mermaid tears. Not just any mermaid tears, bloody tears ripped from the shrunken skin of a tortured mermaid's face. The witches use mortals to collect these sparkling, blood-streaked jewels, and the more the mermaids are tortured before death, the more tears they are likely to collect. These evil servants of the sea witches lure the mermaids to their death with tasty morsels from the ground, which a mermaid would never normally have pass her lips. The most luscious of fruits, berries and leafy plants. And once they have them out of the water, they bind them and they leave their body to desiccate in the sun, only coming back after dark to collect their bounty. When a mermaid dies from exposure to the sun, their last remaining salty tears are stained with blood. After scraping the tears off their victims' faces, the bindings are released and the mermaids are left for the sea to reclaim their bodies. The servants of the witches who have served underneath these cruel witches for thousands of years are trapped in this cycle. If they forsake their masters, they are destined to be forced into a permanent state of paralysis, buried alive and cast into living the rest of their life in a never-ending nightmare, bound with mystical, magical spells that we can barely even dream of. But if they do their evil bidding, they are rewarded with untold riches from the sea, gems of every colour and shape imaginable. And so, dear listener, are you wondering by now, how do I know about this dreadful legacy? Well, I am one of the fated servants. The sea witch I serve is over 300 years old, and she is a cruel mistress. Well, at least she used to be. Luckily for me, in her old age, she's become a little confused, and with her failing eyesight and propensity for watching daytime TV and streaming movies endlessly, she doesn't whip up quite as many potions as she used to. And truth be told, that terrible, terrible potion that all sea witches make to extend their life, well, I think she's kind of forgotten about it. Or maybe she's happy to just not keep living for another 100 years. So she hasn't been hassling me for bloody mermaid tears. Plus, she gets Meals on Wheels now, and I think that keeps her happy. But when she calls, I must answer. It is my duty, my dark, dark duty. Now, for the first 40 years of my life, she didn't call. I mean, I was ready and available, But apart from receiving the occasional Sea Witch newsletter and update, I'd almost forgotten about my dark indentured calling. The thing is, when she called, I just didn't feel quite murderous enough to go out and get all of the fancy fruits and tasty treats, spend all of that time finding mermaids, luring them to shore, tying them up. And then you've got to go back out at night, scrape off the bloody tears, release the bodies back into the ocean. It's a lot. You see, the other thing is too that I'm a vegetarian. I don't like the thought of hurting another living creature. In fact, it's really unappealing to me. The other thing is my eyesight's just not what it used to be. And quite frankly, if I go out at night wandering along with a torch and a knife, I'm probably going to be a danger to myself and anyone else I come into contact with. So I needed to come up with a plan. I got hold of as many dark and evil potion books as I could find, especially the ones with coloured pictures. I got a really good idea of what the tears look like, thanks to a sea witch minion in Sweden who'd uploaded quite a few photos to Instagram lately. The first time I did it, my heart was pounding, and I felt sure she was going to know the moment she opened the jar. But I handed the jar. She opened it. She cackled and called the tears, "My pretties, my pretties," in a really creepy voice, put the lid back on the jar, and then went and sat on the couch. I actually think she forgot I was there, so I just backed out of the room and I left. But before I left, I did notice that the shelf where all the other potions were stored was very full. In fact, it was overflowing. There were lots of jars of bloody mermaid tears, covered in cobwebs and dust, as if they haven't been touched for decades upon decades. So, what had been my cunning plan? Well, I made my own. I DIY'd bloody mermaid tears from resin. And look, it was pretty easy. I mean, I had to learn a fair bit about buying resin, mixing it, storing it, pouring it, colouring it, and all of that. And I had to make safety a priority. But I would have been spending a fair bit anyway on murderous tools, so it was about the same amount to just buy personal protective equipment. So now, whenever she bids me to do her dark, dark deeds, I just whip up a fresh batch. I pour a little clear resin onto a silicone mat, I drag them into a teardrop shape, and then as it starts to cure, I add a little bright red tinted resin. I guess that's my secret. I have to go to work, so I just let them cure while I'm at work. I think that's fair enough, you know. It's not like this is a full-time job, you know, doing these evil deeds for the witch. That's just how I feel anyway. Oh, these are very satisfying though to peel off. I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to. Peeling them off a dead mermaid's skin at night might feel similar, I'm not sure, but definitely peeling them off the silicone sheet, that feels good. And then they all make a nice clinking sound as they go into the Pyrex bowl. So, yeah, it's quite fun, really. Probably more fun than I thought it would be, collecting bloody mermaid tears. Anyway, now presentation is always important, and in the rule book for the Sea Witch, there's just so much information, and we're meant to use certain canisters, and this one's still got a bit of its op shop price tag on it, so a little bit of isopropyl alcohol will get that off really well. Solid silver fixtures and fittings on it, and ancient ceramic, Oh, yeah. Don't worry about that. You know, there's ways and means of fixing it. Right, this is how we're going to fix this situation. So, look, I mentioned her eyesight's not what it used to be, and yeah, the place she lives in is pretty gloomy. So anyway, I get a Posca pen and we'll just get rid of, you know, that bit of it. And, you know, she loves things that are ancient and full of history and, you know, possibly, I don't know, bordering on demonic or something, you know, anything like that. So we'll just go ahead and correct this so that, you know, if she does check, then she feels that, you know, as her evil henchwoman, I'm, you know, looking after her best interests. So, made in ancient times. Here we go. And yeah, we probably don't need that little one. And then we'll take the top bit out as well. But I'll leave the other because that looks like some, you know, ancient code. She'll probably like that actually. You know, try and figure that out. That'll, you know, keep her busy for, you know, a few minutes. And then, of course, we need to, you know, add to the authenticity of it so that it's, you know, very old and very magical, you know. Not every, you know, evil henchwoman of a sea witch would go to this length, but, you know, I like to take pride in what I do. And then, you know, the crowning touch, this will just make her cackle for hours, probably cursed. Probably. Because, you know, you just don't know with these things. My local op shop's run by very nice ladies, but, you know, you don't know who's at the back or whatever. So then I go ahead and add the... well, this is a very prescribed label, and this label has been used for thousands of years without any change, really. Well, I mean, I print mine on the DeskJet printer, you know, and I size it accordingly, but no changes at all apart from that. It's authentic, you know. Yeah, it's the real deal. Bloody mermaid tears. So I think we meant to attach all the labels with some, you know, awful glue made with the bones of tortured animals or something. And, you know, you can do that. I just use Mod Podge. Either. It's just whatever suits you or whatever you've really got to hand. So I just usually stick them down with the good old Mod Podge there. And I like to go that extra mile because I know that sometimes when she holds things, she sort of dribbles a little bit now. I don't mention it because it's, you know, that's a bit personal, isn't it? But I just wanted to make sure that I waterproof the label in case she drools on it. And, you know, I don't want that ink to be smudged. We all, you know, ink's very expensive these days, and yeah. So I just give it a little delicate covering with that Mod Podge, you know, or the glue made from the bones of tortured animals. And yeah, I just sort of wipe it around and you know, keeping it neat. Keeping it neat for the dear old thing, you know. You want to look after our elders and, you know, she's in her 300s now, so yeah, why not? So I see my role as being one of, it's like a custodian of this deep, dark, evil secret. And, you know, I've never really talked about it. You know, occasionally my family, when I got the you know, the Sea Witch newsletters in the mail, they used to be dropped off by crows, I think, back in the day. But yeah, they come, well, they're just emailed now, really. You know, family have raised an eyebrow, but, you know, it's my life. You know, I've got to have some little secrets. Now, that screw in the lid was bugging me a little bit because I don't think that they had them in ancient cursed times. So I just used a little bit of Mod Podge and I popped some of the tears on there to cover it up. Now, this is the master stroke. These, look, there's this whole thing about presentation, and it involves all sorts of sea creatures and squeezing bits out of things that I haven't got time for that. So I get these little magic water balls, I think they're called Orbeez, and I grow them in water, and nobody's ever noticed. So it's all about the presentation, isn't it? And then this is the master touch. I get my natural sea salt. And look, I prefer the one that you grind as you go. But I mean, if you had it in a packet, that would be okay. And then I like to grind a fair bit out. And this is what gives the whole thing that authentic touch. I get that sea salt, I just sort of toss it around a little bit, and then I sprinkle it over the tears, I sprinkle it in over the water beads, So as soon as she opens this jar, she'll be hit with that absolute vivid reminder that these are fresh, well, not fresh, but you know what I mean, from the ocean and from this sea creature. And, it just adds that extra sensory thing, because I think a sense of smell is pretty good. So I tip the Bloody Mermaid tears into the jar. I don't want to waste any, resin's expensive. And look at them, I'm pretty happy with myself, actually. I think I've done a good job. I think that, not a lot of other sort of evil minion type people around the world are probably putting in this much effort. I don't know. Maybe we should form some sort of a club. But there we go. The Bloody Mermaid tears, all ready to be sent off. I don't actually even hand deliver them these days. The bus doesn't go out her way anymore due to vandals. So I just wrap them up in a bubble mailer and I use Australia Post to deliver them. So even in this final stage, I'm still working so hard to, I guess, protect myself, because I don't want her to come after me and, sentence me to a lifetime of paralysis and buried alive and all of that. I can't retire until I'm 68. So, you've got to look after yourself. So I make sure that she knows that I have sealed this with every possible, spell and incantation. And I've, even said here, this is magical binding tape. I don't want her to have any question in her mind that this isn't all done properly. And of course, I don't know whether she opens her own mail anymore. She could have a minion working for her there. So I add this little note, which I think is just sort of a public service, really. Caution, mermaid remains. We want to be sensitive to the fact that, this is once, well, it's not, but it's meant to be once, the living parts of a creature, Anyway, after I've done that, I do my best to protect it, wrap it up all nicely for her, bubble wrap, sealing it, just doing all the things. Sometimes I wonder if I'm not quite as smart as I think I am. This is the latest payment from my witch. Very ancient and valuable gems from the ocean, priceless. Do not attempt to exchange for cash. When I empty it out, you'll see what I mean. Are one of you working for my witch as a minion? Because these look an awful lot like resin to me. But they're beautiful and I love them. I love resin just like you do. So if they are the gems I get, I'm okay with that. And so, dear watcher, we've come to the end of that story. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much to April from Dragons and Dresses Crafts Audium, Marine from Coral Marine's Resin Art, and Gert from Gert Creates for coming up with this horror collaboration, celebrating everything that's freaky, creepy, gory and spooky. And make sure you check out all the playlist links in the description box below. You won't believe where our minds take us. I'll leave you for now to contemplate and think. Was this all fiction? Was there some fact? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Bye for now.